In this video, we'll look at 5 blues riffs you can play over any chord to build up a solo, something like this. So in this video, we're going to look at 5 blues riffs that, rather than being based around a scale, are actually based around a chord. And what this means is you can play these riffs in the same position as the chord, and then when the chord changes, you can play exactly the same riff in the position of the new chord. Now the progression we'll look at in the video is A, D, E and back to A, but you can use these riffs over any major chord in a blues setting. So our first riff sounds like this. So let's break this out into 2 parts. Firstly, we get this. So we start here, 5 on the G and 4 on the B. A little minor third there. And then what you want to do is slide both those notes up 1 fret. And the way to think of this, within the A major chord, you've got this minor third here. So just think of it as like you're sliding into the chord. And then what I do is play a little ghost note on the upstroke just to keep the rhythm going. And then it's 7 on the G and B strings. And then 5 and 5 on the G and B strings, but hammer on only on the G string to 6. And that just adds a little minor to major flavour within that A chord. And then just land on 7 on the D string, which is the root note of our A chord. So you see how this whole riff is rooted within the chord. And then for the next part we get this. So starting here, 4 on the G string, pluck, and then I'm going to slide up to 5 and back down to 4. And then 7 on the D string, 4 on the D string, and back to 7 on the D string, ending again on our root note of A. So all together. Now once we're able to play the riff over an A chord, when the chord changes up to a D, all we need to do is transpose that exact same riff. So starting here at the 10th and 9th frets, to make it fit over the D chord. Same again, up to the E. Just move the riff to fit the position of the chord, and now you start to see how this type of riff you can use with any chord within the blues. So now let's hear that in the context of the backing track. Our second riff sounds like this. So again, let's break it out into 2 parts, starting with this. So the way to think of the starting position is, here's the bar chord. What you want to do is go 2 frets above that shape, so starting here at the 9th on the G string, together with the 8th on the B string. Now this has this G natural on top, which is the 7th of the A chord, so this riff really strongly spells out that dominant 7th sound. So just slide into that and strum it 3 times. And then down to 7 and 7 on the G and B strings, and then again 5 and 5 on the G and B strings with that little hammer on to 6 only on the G string. And then back down to 7 on the D, our root note of A. Then the second part of the riff. So if we bar at the 5th fret on the D, G and B strings, play all those 3 together, and then hammer on at the 6th fret just on the G string, and then a ghost strum on the upstroke, and then bar again at the 7th fret on those same 3 strings, D, G and B strings, and then back to this 5th fret bar, strum them, and then hammer on again at the 6th fret of the G string. So all together with the first part of the riff. So again, once we can play that in the A position, we can simply move it around the fretboard to fit other chords. So up to the D, like I said, we want to go 2 frets above that position. So to here at the 14th and 13th frets, and then up to the E position, back down to A. Okay, so now let's hear that with the track. For our third riff, we introduce some bending and it'll sound like this. So this time we're starting just below our chord shape at the 4th fret, so this pickup lick. So we start 4th fret of the G string, hammer onto the 5th, and then slide up to the 6th. And then 5th on the B string, 7th on the B string, and then both at the 5th fret, the B and high E strings. And then just let those slide away. So these 2 notes together are clearly the top part of our A chord, so just really spell out the chord once again. So that's the first part. The second part is where the bending comes in and sounds like this. So we start here, 7th fret on the high E and a half bend up, and then another half bend up, but this time back down and pull off to the 5th fret. And then 7 on the B and back to the 5th fret on the high E, and again let that slide away. So bend up, down, release, and then 7th on the B, 5th on the high E, and away. Now again, if we want to move this shape to any other chord, we can go here to the D, and then we just start the 1 fret below. So on the A, we started at the 4th fret, so here at the D, on the 10th fret, we'll start the 9th, and same on the E, go 1 fret below. So let's go back to the track and hear that in context. For riff 4, we're going to take the bending a step further and play this. Okay, so this time we're starting 5th fret on the B string, just a little kind of pickup note there, and then straight into this bend, 7th fret of the G string, a full bend. But you can make that nice and bluesy by going a bit slower on it if you want. And then 5th on the B string, 5th on the high E, and back to 5th on the B. So you can play those notes all ringing together if you like. And then 8th fret on the B string, a full bend up there. So that's the first part of the riff. And then second part, very similar to what we just did in the last riff, but we're going to start here, 5th fret of the high E, just a little note there into the bend at the 7th fret. And just the same as in the last riff, one little bend up, another, back down and pull off, and then 7 on the B and back to 5 on the high E and slide away. All together. With this riff, you're starting at the 5th fret, right in the starting position of the chord, so then when you go up to the D, it's just a case of starting at the 10th, just like the D chord. Same with the E at the 12th. So let's go back to the track now and hear this riff in action. Finally, riff number 5, and we're going to get a bit more sophisticated with some sliding 4ths and sliding 6ths. So let's break this out into 2 parts, starting with this. So we start here in the position of the chord at the 5th fret on the G string, and then slide up to 6, and then 5 on the B, 7 on the B. So a little pickup lick here. And then we're straight into this bar on the B and high E strings at the 5th fret. So this is a perfect 4th, which creates a really bright sound and is really nice when we slide it around. So what we're going to do, once we get to this bar, we're going to slide straight into fret 7 from 5. So straight into fret 7. And then once we've done that, we're going to slide in 5 to 7 again, and then back down to 5. So pick up, slide up to 7, and then slide up to 7 and down to 5. Then for the second part of the riff, we're going to move into 6ths. So we're going to be playing here at the 8th fret on the G and the 8th fret on the high E, but then making sure this B string in the middle is muted. So we're going to need to strum across these strings, but we only want the G and high E strings to sound. So we're starting at the 8th fret, and we're going to slide straight into the 9th. And then back to the 8th, down to the 7th, and then we want to go 6 on the G and 5 on the high E together. So 8, slide into 9, 8, 7, and then 6 and 5 together. So then let's put the 2 parts of the riff together. So firstly the 4ths, then the 6ths. Now because this riff starts at the 5th fret, the same place the chord starts, when we go up to the D at the 10th, all we need to do is start the riff at the 10th fret. And then the E at the 12th. So let's go back to the backing track and hear this one in context. So now we've seen all 5 riffs, I'm going to close out the video by playing over the backing track one last time and picking and choosing from these riffs to show how I can use them to build out a full solo.